Let's get started with our next session. I want to welcome all of you. I'm Jennifer Dell, and I'm the director of the undergraduate program and work on the Norman campus as an instructor. And I'm really excited to see so many people here. So great to have you at our continuing education event that's brought to you by planning from our student organization and some of our great faculty and staff. So excited to have all of you here. If this is your first session, this is one of the CEU eligible sessions. And so there's a posted link that you can fill out at the end of the session if this is your only session you're attending, or if it's the end of the sessions that you're attending. Otherwise, you only have to fill that link out one time. So if you're attending other things today or tomorrow, you can wait until the end of the lovely attending that you can complete that. There's also a secondary evaluation link that I'll post just if you have questions. If you are looking to get CEUs, there is so many people that have registered for these events, so it will take probably 12 to 14 days. So just please be aware of that as you get correspondence from Megan Avaleros, who helps organize that for our school. Also make sure that your Zoom name has your getting CEUs has your real name that would be on your CEU certificate, so that we can cross-check all of the attendees. I think that's all the housekeeping that I have. So I am really honored to get to introduce two of my lovely colleagues here today, Dr. Miller and Dr. Nyori Corbett. So welcome to both of you, and they're involved in so many things across the campus and across the school that I'm really excited to listen to them today talk about the case for really internationalization and social work. And I know that they are planning a great trip to Japan this summer and just have lots of
that's very long.
So not sure who that was, but make sure we chat, make sure we mute.
Let me see.
Individuals.
I think you need to find this email that went out yesterday.
Laura, we can hear you. So if you'll mute, thank you. Awesome. And if we can just everyone else double check so that only our speakers are the ones that we hear the information from. All right, well, that's enough of that. So I will let Dr. Nyori Corbett and Dr. Miller take it away.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's nice to be here today. We have a short PowerPoint presentation. Does Dr. Nyori Corbett have the host capabilities to? Great. So we will go through our PowerPoint, and then we have a few kind of interactive discussion questions toward the end. And we'll tell you a little more at the end about what's happening within the School of Social Work related to internationalization as well. So let her pull up the presentation.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was not ready. I've been trying to share this on Zoom. Let me see what I can do. I think I'm okay now. Let me know if it's showing here. Let me see. Okay. Okay. Share screen here. Do you see the top page right now? Great.
We can, yes.
Good. Thank you so much for coming today, joining us today. My name is Chie. I'm a faculty member at the School of Social Work here. Dr. Miller and I started this project. It's been a long-term. It will be a long-term project to the long-term goal is to really internationalize the School of Social Work, and also it means internationalize not only the students but also the faculty members, all those different aspects or members of the School of Social Work. And being in Oklahoma, it sounds like it's really hard to do that, but because of the technology, and also some. We have advantages at OU. We have some study abroad office. Those advantages made us easy to work on this project. And today we would like to talk basic things, but talk about how we approach this internationalization of social work education, what we have done, what we plan to do in the future. And I think I'll start from the first slide here. I'm originally from Japan. So Dr. Miller and I have been working on this exchange program to bring our students to Japan, which we'll talk more about this later. And this year, for the first time, we can bring our cohort, 20 students to Japan and stay on Japanese university campus. So first of all, I would like to talk about more general things about internationalization here. Let me change. Okay. So what are the global issues and educational content that social work students really need to learn about or gain skill of? And these are the old, concept, these issues and global issues and concepts are relatively new to social workers, such as the globalization effects and sustainability in social work education. So without gaining these knowledge and the skills, students really cannot be prepared to work with the globally marginalized populations, such as the refugees, human trafficking victims, asylum seekers. So what are the global concerns related to social work currently? And to explore these current issues, global issues, I want everyone to think about the United Nations SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. And have you ever heard of SDGs in the past? Maybe not in details. So SDGs, it's the Sustainable Development Goals. This is the goal set by United Nations, and it started in June 1992 at the Earth Summit in Brazil. And more than 150 countries adopted this agenda called Agenda 21, which is a comprehensive plan of action to build a global partnership for sustainable development to improve human lives and also protect the environment. So it's both for environment and human lives and human rights. And the actual agenda towards the year of 2030, actually, we have this goal we have to accomplish by the year of 2030, which was adopted by all United Nations members in year of the 2015. It provided a shared plan for a better future for both human rights purposes and also the environmental purposes. And there, the 19 sustainable development goals that we have to achieve. And I want you to listen to these 17 goals, how these could be related to social work or not. And that's where we can start to think what social workers can do on a global stage. So here are the 17 goals we know. First one is no poverty by 2030, okay? These are the goals to be achieved by 2030. Number one is no poverty. Number two, zero hunger. Number three, good health and well-being. Number four, quality education. Number five, gender equality. Number six, clean water and sanitation. Number seven, affordable and clean energy. Number eight, decent work and economic growth. Number nine, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Number 10, education inequalities. Number 11, sustainable cities and communities, and responsible consumption and production, and there are many more. I should stop here, but these are the goals that we have to achieve as global society members. So to me, all of these goals are related to social workers. What do you think? Like poverty and hunger and human rights and equality, these are all related to social workers. So I believe that this is something that a social worker should be more active on the global stage, which we still have not seen many social workers active on the global stage. So I wonder, do anybody see yourself working on a global scale in next 5 years? Is it that difficult? Is it difficult to do or not? Here, we just put the pictures of Dr. Miller and myself when we were kids, how it's showing how different society communities we're from. I'm from Japan, and Dr. Miller's from which state?
Missouri.
Yes, we're from totally different world, but we're together, working together to bring some good things to educate social work students with the global contents. So what could be the jobs that social workers can have on a global stage? And I just did some research on it. And I won't list everything because we have limited time. So number one job as a social worker to get to be active on global scale could be United Nations. And they provide worldwide job opportunities in many different countries. United Nations they really provide the works for the social workers. They listed some jobs listed for social workers on political, humanitarian, emergency relief, community organization, and also peacekeeping missions. And entry-level positions have base salaries from $37,000 to $80,000. So if we look for this kind of opportunity, we can find some opportunities to work in other countries or on a global scale issues. Next one is International Rescue Committee. This is the agency actively helping refugees in different countries. And RC is called RC, International Rescue Committee, is passionate about this, helping these people who had to leave their countries without their own will. And they are looking for social workers. RC hires candidates with the bachelor's degree in social work or similar fields from various educational programs. And their salary range is $35,000 to $71,000. So these could be the possibilities of the job. There's many more there if you look for them. Social workers can be active on a global scale, and they need it. Not many even students think about these opportunities, but they do have opportunities to work on global scale. So I think I'll give this to Dr. Miller.
Thank you so much for sharing those United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I had a couple of thoughts during your talk, Dr. Nyori Corbett. One is, when we were those little girls in the picture on the slide before, I don't know if you ever imagined that you would be living in Oklahoma and teaching social work. I certainly never imagined when I was, a child in Peculiar, Missouri, that I would get to go to Japan and meet with faculty in Japan and help train social work students to learn more about international practice. So it's really exciting to see where life takes you and the opportunities that social work can present to us. And I was also struck by that sustainable development goal about building sustainable cities and communities. Because just yesterday I was talking with a colleague in city and urban planning, and we were thinking about how we need to offer a joint elective class for our students, so that social work students can learn more about zoning laws and developing communities that help prevent the social problems and physical determinants of health and social determinants of health that lead to problems for people in communities where they then interact with social workers, and how they need to learn from us how to connect with communities to hear the voice of marginalized populations. And so we were thinking, how can we do that together? And that would be really connecting interprofessionally to reach those sustainable development goals, which was really exciting to hear that from the United Nations. So in addition to the United Nations efforts to to think about how social work can connect with those sustainable development goals. Our Council on Social Work Education has also identified, a number of competencies that our students need to learn before they go out in the field to practice as social workers. And the two that we feel are really well connected to the role of internationalization are engaging diversity and difference in practice, because that experience of going to a foreign country, of being someone who's different in a community is really eye-opening. It teaches students adaptability. It teaches them respect for other cultures. They get to experience discomfort in a way that can help them grow their empathy as they work with others and give them new perspectives. They can learn some really new and exciting ways to address social problems, that the way that other countries handle addressing their social problems and issues, may be a different approach than what we use in the United States. And it can be really helpful to learn those different perspectives and bring those back and apply them in our own spaces. And also advancing human rights and social and economic and environmental justice. So if we understand the issues of global human rights and social justice, we can learn about violations of those human rights beyond our own borders. And it's important that we are aware that we have violations of human rights within the United States as well. That is not simply an international issue, but that we can see it both within and without, and that we're striving to address those problems and to make changes and to advocate for change. And students are challenged to objectively evaluate their own lives, their own personal values and principles when they're put in situations where they can experience different cultures and different perspectives. And what you see on this slide is Hiroshima, where the bomb blast was in Japan, and it is one of the sites we will be taking our OU students to in May. Next slide. So one of the things that happens when we engage in international practice is that we can learn better cultural sensitivity and better cultural competence. And it's important that we really have an understanding and appreciation for other nations and regions, and really be able to think from a different point of view, and to try to put ourselves in the shoes of other people and think from their perspective. It's important that we examine our own biases of people from other cultures, and that we go to these experiences really asking questions, listening, being open, respectful of different customs and views. And that may mean doing things that are different than the way you would do them. The way you walk into a building, do you leave your shoes on or off? Do you bow instead of shake hands? What you wear into religious or sacred spaces. It's really important that you respect those aspects of culture. And it's a wonderful experience to be able to listen to people tell their stories, think about the differences in their perspective, and also the similarities. What do we share in common? And where do we find our common values that may just be expressed a little bit differently? And wanting to be an ally to those in different areas of the world. Next slide. Do you want to take this one, Dr. Corbett, or was it mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So these are our colleagues at Ritsumeikan University when we went in 2019, because we planned our study abroad trip to run in 2020. And so we made a site visit in 2019 to visit the places that we would take students. So we went to a very fancy dinner, and these are the faculty that joined us. They hosted us. And we were working on really establishing a partnership, because when working with Japan, it's very important to have that face-to-face time, to really take your time to develop a relationship. They're culturally not as quick to just jump to business like you need to establish trust first before you can move forward with kind of the tasks and the work at hand. So we made our journey there in 2019 to help establish that trust. The International Education Partnership, the goal is to really find ways that we can support each other through faculty research, through shared classes, relationship between faculty and staff members, and thinking about how we can train our students together as well. And we wanted to create more opportunities for education across campuses. And we did this through visiting, designing these study abroad classes. We finally hosted their students here in the US last fall, but we've also held a virtual research fair. And this was a CE event. It was 2 evenings to kind of work out for our time zone differences. Sort of the 7 to 9 time for us is early morning for them. And we had research presenters from Japan and from the US share, and we had students in practicum share about their experiences. And we've also offered a joint class. It provided practicum hours for our social work students. And it was a class on international communication for the Japanese students. And they shared Zoom times and also had sort of a class website with online discussion between the students, and they produced some video material that they were able to share with each other as well to meet the learning outcomes. That class followed what is called the COIL model for international education, and it is a strategy for using technology to offer international competency training or international education. So you got 2 classes in 2 different countries, and they may even be different classes. Like the students have different learning outcomes, but they're able to meet both learning outcomes with similar assignments that they do together and lectures that they have together. So we offered that with a class at Ritsumeikan University as well. Next slide. Here are some pictures from this site visit when the Ritsumeikan students joined us in fall of 22. And we visited Alcott Middle School in Norman. The students were really struck by how strange it is to have wildcats everywhere in the school, because that's the mascot. Like, why do you want these middle schoolers to act like wildcats? So that was something that stood out as kind of strange to our Japanese students. So trying to describe the need for like ferocious mascots in sports and how American schools really get behind that. We visited Bridges and the Center for Children and Families in Norman, so they could learn about some of the social services offered in our community. We went to the Native American Center and Museum in Oklahoma City and visited toured that. We also went to the Outlet Mall and Walmart, and some of our social work students took the Japanese students to visit their sorority house and to see their home, that they like the house they rent near campus, so they could see how American students live, and they really enjoyed that. They went to Professor Dell's class and were able to observe a social work class in action. And they also, I think, participated with the Japanese Language Club. They were here for 1 week. It was a small group because the cost got really high. We currently, the exchange rate is not favorable for Japanese currency in the US. So the trip became very expensive. So it was a small group of students, but we really enjoyed their visit. And they are planning to bring another group to us next fall. So we will host again in the fall. And these students that came to visit us this fall will be there to help host our students when we visit them in May, when we're bringing 20 students over in May. Anything you want to add to this, Dr. Nyori, Corbett?
I think the one thing I would like to add is we built this exchange program on some kind of with a theme. Because these times when we just do all these symposiums and the course virtual courses, and now we're visiting there over there, we just want to have some common theme across two different cultures. That was then we thought about what could be common theme between Japan and Oklahoma. The only thing we thought about was the disaster. So we wanted to really, each side of the students to learn how victims or survivors of these disasters really supported and helped by social service agencies. What could be the differences between those services? What could be the common services we see from two different countries? So when I heard from this some Japanese students when they're visiting here, I remember them saying like, well, when we talk about human sufferings, it's same. It doesn't matter where you're from. We do suffer from similar disasters, and we react to these disasters in the same way. And our needs are same too. But probably we can learn something new, how we help people from each other. So that was really interesting conversation I overheard when these students are talking when they were here. So that's one theme we kind of had to set as an educational framework for these students from different countries to learn. So I think we can move to the next one.
So now is the time when we want to hear from you. So we would love to just talk with you all a little bit. As you think about your career in social work and opportunities that there are to engage in global social work, what kind of an international social work job can you explore? Would you think about pursuing? And just unmute yourself and speak. Right now, I can't see raised hands or anything because we're on presentation view. And if you want, you can put it in the chat too, and we can read it off. I've got that open.
I see somebody raising hand. No. Was it Angela? Somebody.
And go ahead and speak.
Or even like a dream job, if you could get a job in another country, what would you like to do? What kind of population you would like to help?
I grew up in Russia and I came to America when I was 17 as a student. So a year ago, I have family both in Russia and Ukraine. And so when the situation started, I was helping volunteer with a hotline for refugees where we would take their information and connect them to resources. Strangely enough, even though I've been a social worker for many years, I've never really gotten to use my language skills or, my cultural competences of Russian and Ukrainian cultures in my work. So I know we have had there's a few Ukrainians that have come to the US. So I'm kind of, looking at that, but also in the life situation I'm at right now with my family, I don't think career change is anything I will be doing. But as far as, volunteering and similar things, I'm definitely considering these populations.
I love that example. That is incredible. And the way you were able to engage in supporting international populations because of your own lived experience and background and special skills, and do that from, right here locally is incredible. That is a fantastic example of really using your social work skills on the global stage to make a difference internationally. In the chat, we have some examples of human trafficking, and absolutely that often occurs across borders and is a great way for social workers to engage in international practice. We have a student interested in serving in South Korea and doing clinical social work there. I think that's amazing.
I think right now, Oklahoma State, we're not receiving help the Ukrainian people resettled here, but I heard many in Dallas DFW area. So they were looking for volunteers one time, especially the largest agency in Dallas area is called the one I talked about earlier, IRC, International Rescue Committee. They look for anybody who can help them, help people coming from Ukraine just to resettle in this country. And it's really related to human rights issues, and not only we can help them here, but also hopefully we can find a way to help people back in their country too. I think that was a good example. Thank you so much.
So how do you think learning about internationalization can make you a better social worker?
This is Aliona again. In school and even in professional settings, they talk about diversity, but this is different. Diversity is what groups do we have around here? So I live in Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas. We have a huge Marshallese population. So then we learn about, what are some cultural things that we need to be aware of? What are some issues that they're facing? And what is the story of the people? And what are available resources? But when we talk about internationalization, sorry, what a long word. This is worldwide. Like, yes, we know about one group, but what else is going on? What has affected them over the years? Where could they be coming from? Just kind of a really big perspective on the whole world.
Mm-hmm. It is a lot bigger. And I think Americans tend to not spend as much time thinking about the broader world or life outside of kind of American boundaries, maybe as some people in other countries do. So it can so vital to learn history of other countries as we want to understand their perspective and where they're coming from, and how their cultures and values and perspectives develop over time. I think in the chat, we have a lot of things about learning about cultural differences and improving cultural humility. Yeah, being mindful of challenges faced by people outside of the US. And I love that, Vicki, to just really expand our network of professionals. And that has been an incredible opportunity for Dr. Nyori Corbett and I in connecting with Ritsumeikan University. And now there's a second university in Japan that we're building a partnership with as well. It's really expanded just what I get the chance to know and then share with students, and the way that my own perspectives can be impacted and really grow.
Dr. Miller, I think Theda had something to say. She had her hand up.
Okay, please share. I'm sorry, I can't see everyone on there, so
well,
go ahead and unmute and interrupt.
Well, I had started typing it, but before we do anything, we have to understand that everybody, we need each other. if we're going to be productive in all that we do for our families and our countries and our nation, then we're going to have to first understand that everybody have different needs. What works for in America may not work in Germany. We have to respect their culture, respect them as people, and don't just take over, but be respectful and be available at whatever we can do. And not only that, and I'm also in rural Oklahoma. So we have a lot of Marshallese here in McCurtain County. And so I have to understand that we have language barriers, so we don't understand. Part of their culture was that they don't educate the women. But now we have more of them in our schools, so we have to be still respect. I'm really, we have to respect their culture and their ideas and just gradually work them into what they want as well as what we need to help them be productive for each other, because they have something to offer as well.
Thank you so much. I love the way you opened that and reframing and remembering how much we need each other. And the problems that we as social workers strive to address are complicated, they're big, and we're not going to solve these issues alone. And especially if we try to work outside of the cultural context in which the problems are occurring. And so that was a really great point to bring up. Thank you for sharing that. So we have some other things in the chat, just thinking about how people are dealing with environmental issues because we're so globally connected today, and that's absolutely right. Thinking about how we work and provide services for people with disabilities. The US has a lot to learn from how other countries are leading in the areas of addressing social problems. And that's a really important thing for us to remember as we engage in global social work, is we're not necessarily coming from a country that's doing things right. We're doing things in a certain way, and we have a lot to learn from how other countries are addressing their issues and working with vulnerable populations. So what do you think, we have just a few minutes left, but what do you think are some of the barriers to learning about international social work practice or engaging in international social work practice? Language is a barrier, yes. Using cultural humility. Hey, Vicky says opportunities. Affordable education opportunities. It's expensive to travel abroad. Plane tickets cost a lot. Yeah, it's daunting to think about how much money is involved in travel, right? Any other barriers or biases can be a barrier? Yeah. Oh, political differences. That's a good point. And there can be issues between nations that make it difficult to cross borders. And just be kind of afraid. It's a new experience. And so what will happen? I'm in an area that I'm unfamiliar with, or doing something I haven't done before. I think that can be a big barrier. As you look at this list of barriers and you think about the benefits to international practice and education, what can we do to address those barriers? Awareness. using technology. And I think Dr. Nyori Corbett, in developing this partnership with Ritsumeikan University, has used technology so efficiently to create some international learning opportunities for students that were free and can just be an introduction to interacting with people in another country. Oh, friendship circles to help isolated older adults. Yeah, being able to read about what's happening in other countries so that we're familiar. I think that's great. Dr. Nyori Corbett, do you have any kind of final thoughts on barriers and addressing those barriers?
I really like the idea that we now can meet people from all over the world through the Zoom or like this, Zoom or any video conference. But at the same time, it will be a great experience for students to go to Japan and meet with the people in person and learn how people behave, and just to, in a way, I have to tell my students before we take these students to Japan, we have to do the orientation and teach them do's and don'ts, culturally, if it's certain things are not really allowed to do, but at the same time, do not fear to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. Well, I've been in the United States in total like 25 years, and I don't know how many mistakes I've made. And I learned from those mistakes, even body language that I thought was okay, was not okay in this country. And I was in big trouble, but just that's something that you have to be there, you have to learn, and you have to be brave enough to learn the difference. And it can be applicable to within this country too, to make friends from different groups of people. You see, I always tell my students, this is a wonderful country in a way that you do not have to go to other countries, but you can meet people from other countries. So many people want to come to this country. You have a chance to meet people from different cultures, different countries, and just, be open and find friends from different culture and just learn what they think, what they're doing. So I'm really excited. Both Dr. Miller and I will take these students to Japan for the first time. I visited Japanese University in 2014. It's been 9 years for me to really have this program really active. Now, finally, we're bringing students for the first time, but I'm very excited that these students can have experience. And again, cost was one obstacle. And what Dr. Miller and I did was to lower the cost. That was one obstacle. So there's so many other things that faculty members, universities, and schools of social work can do to make it happen, not only for the social worker side or student side to do, but we also have to keep making efforts, I think.
Our final slide has just a little list of some of the international training opportunities. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
I'm sorry, which one? No, you can, we don't have to. Let's see, let's do this here.
Okay, so for many years, there's been a partnership with Haruv in Israel and Hebrew University to take our child welfare students, or students studying to work in child welfare, to Israel to learn about child welfare practices in Israel. And then they bring their students from Hebrew University to OU to learn about child welfare practices in Oklahoma. And I got to travel on one of those trips, and that was a really powerful experience to learn about all the different cultural groups represented in Israel, and to just see how they approach caring for children who have experienced abuse or neglect. And we modeled our Japan exchange off of that idea of taking students to Japan and having the same university bringing students here to OU so that we could have a really reciprocal kind of exchange. So it looks like in May, we're taking 20 OU students there to learn about disaster preparedness and response in Japan. And in September, they will bring students again to stay with us in Norman and learn about social work in Oklahoma. And we're also striving to set up a study abroad experience with Puebla, Mexico. We've also historically had a few students complete a practicum there with the OU campus in Puebla, and hopefully that will be relaunching again in the near future. I don't know if it's happening now. Sometimes I'm out of the loop these days, but that's another partnership that's in the works. So we have some exciting things happening here at OU. We've also started hosting some international scholars more often, which is a great opportunity to have guest lectures in the classroom and some CE events from people who have developed research on human rights in their home countries and are spending time here at OU to share that knowledge with us. So that's what's happening here. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. It's been delightful to talk with you about international social work.
Well, a big thank you to Dr. Miller and Dr. Nyori Corbett. That one downside of Zoom is that we can't all clap for our presenters. So like use your emoji or just, clap quietly for their great work. And thanks to everyone for engaging in that discussion. That was, really interesting to hear all the different diverse perspectives. I'm putting in the chat the link to the CEU questions if you have questions that need to be addressed, as well as the full evaluation link. And if you didn't hear it at the beginning, then you only need to complete that on one occasion. So you don't need to complete that if this is not your final session. I'm also putting in the chat the flyer that just outlines the rest of our great day. So we had a great presentation just now, and there's a few minutes of a break, but at noon, there's another presentation by Professor Kratz talking about the different exams. And then we have this afternoon, 2 more CEU eligible presentations, one on Afghan refugees and one on reproductive rights and civic engagement. So if you're free, I hope you'll join us for some of those offerings, as well as some of the great offerings that are coming to you tomorrow. So once again, thank you to our great faculty for all your hard work and the presentation, and thanks to everyone for attending this professional development series.